Hey everyone, this is Kat.
And Amber.
And we are
Wandering Soup Black Lesbian Expats.
Or travel. Whichever one. Anyway, we are in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And we decided to talk to you today about something that's come up quite a bit in the last few days. I don't know why. But maybe it's because we're doing a whole bunch of planning for the future. We just spent some money and things like that. So we decided to talk to you about money. I mean, show me the money or let's talk about money. One of those things. That's what we're going to do today is money. Money. Now, we've mentioned it in other videos. We've talked about expenses for things. And I've said, and we've said more than once, that money goes both ways. Meaning, it really depends on your style of living, right? How much the costs are. But these are some things that no matter what your cost of living is going to be, or how your style of living, you need to consider.
Right.
A few things. They're numbered, but could be more or less depending on how you break down a topic.
Right. I'm throwing it out there for you.
That's right. So first thing is, and something that we've mentioned more than once, always come with more than what you need. So worst thing you could do is get somewhere and you've underestimated how much money you need to live the lifestyle that you want to live. And you're broke, right? So what we suggest is that you watch every vlog on YouTube that you can watch on cost of living for that area, that country, that city, that state, whatever. That you also read every blog you can find, every article about that country and the cost of living, and then compare it to how you live today. So if you're a person who eats out typically 2 meals out of the day, why would that intrinsically change because you're moving? If your budget is high for that here, then more likely it needs to be high for that there. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that $1.50 noodle is what you can eat and live off of every day.
Right. I mean, just be realistic, basically. And if you've been, pretty conservative, or as you live now, and you don't go out every day, you only go out to eat maybe, on the weekends or maybe once a month or whatever, don't drastically change that when you move. I mean, things may change initially because you're transitioning, and in a transition period, it's expected that your routine is going to vary a little bit, but don't just be like, I'm about to go over here and wow out.
Because I'm a rich American.
Right.
You're not.
That would be a mistake.
Yeah, you're not. Because honestly, prices over here can be just as high as America or any Western country or Western style country.
Right.
So don't get caught up in the hype of it being so cheap that you're going to be living like a king. People always say that's a king fallacy. All right. The next one is catch savings so you can catch emergency flights, right? What's that old phrase? Catch feelings, not flights, or catch flights, not feelings. No, you need to catch a savings plan. So what I recommend is that you put aside $50 to $100 a month when you first get to wherever you're going. So that way, if you need to go home, you can, without it being a financial hardship. We had the pandemic occur and people were all over. They couldn't afford to go back home. Maybe granny got sick and you need to go home. Maybe you just need a mental health check on your mama couch.
Right.
So you need to go back home. So typically if your flight is, say, $900 round trip from wherever you're at, to get back home, you need to double that in your savings account and leave it alone. And the reason why I say double that is because if you want a last minute flight, it's going to be pretty much be double what you would typically pay.
Right.
And we're talking economy class. We're not talking first class or business class. If you do that, then you need to plan accordingly, again, for that last minute emergency flight.
And if you're flying with a family, obviously, you need to plan for more, double that or triple that, whatever the number of people you have in your party. But yeah, and really stick to it, because you really can't just drop enough money for 3-4 tickets at one time in an emergency. So we would like to think that we'll do that because it's just going to be there. It's going to be a windfall. But when you're out of your home country, you really can't depend on that. So
and you can't depend on the embassy to get you back home. You can't depend on your family to get you back home. So you need to depend on yourself. This is your dream that you took upon yourself to move to a foreign country, foreign land. But remind you, this is you for you, and you need to go back home for you as well. So you need to save your money. Simple as that.
Facts.
And hey, we're not preaching. We're talking from experience here. We have to keep reminding ourselves that there's a chunk of money that we don't touch because that is our emergency plan to get home if anything were to happen.
Right.
And if we do touch it, we replenish it real quick.
Right.
Because you just don't want to be caught.
Right, because when we started out on our trip, obviously the pandemic had not happened.
It wasn't even
so we were a little bit more lax, and also new, obviously.
Right.
And then we learn, okay, we're not saving, we're dipping into
our savings,
this money, so let's switch up, gear. So at this point, we just don't have an excuse not to.
Been over here too long. We seasoned in this, so we're not doing it. Next up is food costs are underestimated on every blog site, every vlog. I mean, when I tell you the number of articles we read about food costing $1, $2, you can feed your whole family for $6 a day. They lied, people. You will get extremely bored eating $1.50 noodle every day, right? I mean, it's not feasible that you're going to keep that up. It's great when you first start out.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'm eating this Vietnamese food or this Malaysian food or this Cambodian food. Everything's great. It's really, really cheap. And then you're going to get bored with that. And you're going to go back to your old familiars. And those things cost more money.
They do.
Western eating in foreign lands costs way more money. And add to that, they don't tend to do preserved foods here. So you can't buy stuff and keep it in your refrigerator for 3, 4, 5 weeks. Now, you typically grocery shop every 2 to 3 days here. And some people grocery shop every day. They just go get what they need for the day. And so those costs add up as well. Unless, of course, you are really, really living local and eating local.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, if you are shopping at the local market every other day, then actually that's probably the most affordable way to shop and to live. And you're cooking pretty much on a regular basis. So yeah, and you definitely can do that. Now, if you're going from place to place,
right,
and you're not staying in one place, it's going to be a little bit harder to do that, maintain that, because you're going to need a kitchen and everything you need in a kitchen to cook on a regular basis.
Right.
But certainly, if you're sitting somewhere and you decide this is our food budget for the week, and you utilize the local market, then that's probably the cheapest way to go. But a lot of us fudge. And like she said, you're going to have cravings for the things that you miss. And they're there. They're there.
Not in every form that you're used to, but they are there.
And you're going to pay for it.
You're going to pay out the wazoo for Western style food.
Yep.
Of any style, shape, form, fashion. It's ridiculous. But they get us all the time.
They do.
I force myself to eat local because I'm like, I just don't want to pay the prices. But every now and then I got a craving for something, some carbonara or something like that, or something. I could make it home, but hey, I don't want to cook that day. So again, if your budget's like $150, you thinking I can make it off $150 a month, double that easily.
Yeah. And
you'll be fine. But just don't go in thinking I can live off $100 a month groceries. You won't be able to do it. Not unless you're like one of those weird eaters. Now, if you're a weird eater, it's on you.
Or disciplined.
Weird.
They're disciplined.
Weird. Yeah, that's the same thing. Next up is apartment living can get pricey. On all the sites, the vlogs, even the ones that we show you, we say, hey, this is our great apartment for X, Y, and Z, Don't get caught up in the hype, right? You have to search to find those $200 apartments, those $300 apartments. And then the price is not always exactly how it's presented. There could be different levels of that price for different things. To get a furnished apartment, which is what you can find over here in plenty, but the electricity may not be covered. The electricity may be covered. Internet may be covered. It may not be covered. It may not be fully furnished. So it can get pricey if you want to live up to the standards that you think you are accustomed to from the Western world. Right. We've not lowered our standards, we've changed our standards, would be the best way to say that, right?
Yes, we have. We have. We don't have a choice. Like we have to. There's some things that we stick to that we know. Okay, we need this. Like like a wet bathroom. Like we pretty much now know, but you have to look harder. You have to work harder in your actual looking to say, okay, well, we know we don't want this, but it still has to be under this in this range, and it takes longer to find that. So as long as you're willing to put in the work to look, then you can stick to your little quirks and standards, to some extent.
Right. We lived in an apartment that had a wet bathroom, which basically means the shower's in the wall. There is no separation between the shower and the bathroom.
Right.
I got over it. You know, it was honestly, it was easy peasy, and I would do it again. I have no problem with it. Amber says no, she would never do it again. It's one of those things. Now, I will tell you that electricity will cost you. A lot of apartments offer electricity as part of the deal, but they charge you a rate for it, so it's not a fixed price. Sometimes you can get it moved into a place and you have electricity up under your name, and then you'll pay whatever that rate is and things like that. But because it is hot in Southeast Asia, expect your electricity bill to be relatively high because you will be running that AC. And think about the fact that you more than likely work from home.
Right.
So that's 24 hours of AC. A lot of locals don't work from home. Their bills are a lot cheaper. And then they turn on a fan because they're used to the heat. You're going to get over here and sweat. And so you're going to be like, oh, I got to have the air conditioning. Guess it's going to cost you.
There's someone on our hall right now in our apartment building who keeps their door open like most of the day. And I wondered, why is she doing that? And then I realized, oh, she's not running the AC in there.
She's got her windows open and she's got her door open. She's getting a cross strap. And that's fine. If you okay with that, and you may have to do that. Invest in fans. You got to have fans here. There is no central air. There's always going to be AC units in each room. And that actually increases your electricity bill because every person in each room has an AC on. They got different temperature settings. I am the queen of, I will cut this shit off. And we're going to sit here and be a little warmer. Because I hate throwing away money on electricity bills. And the bills here are just as high as you would be in the States. They are not cheaper at all for electricity. If anything, I think it actually costs more.
And just as hard to keep track of, really. I mean, you know how much you're paying per kilowatt, but that doesn't help you as far as usage, really. Like, unless you're looking at it. Well, yeah, if you're checking it every night, but
you can do that though.
You can, and as long as you're doing that, then that's great. But
I check it when we first get to a place. We check it for a couple of days just to see how the house is running because everything is running on electricity. 9 times out of 10, except for maybe the gas stove. So I check it the first couple of days and I go, hey, we really are consuming a lot. We need to really tighten up on some things. If that means turning the fridge a little bit warmer, making sure the AC is off in different rooms, going out and buying fans so that we can reduce the cost, I will do that. Otherwise, we've run up to $200 a month in electricity, which is ridiculous for the size of the homes that we've been living in. In my home in Georgia, our highest bill was probably $200. That was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Right.
And even then, I freaked the heck out that summer. You know, but I've had bills as low as $30 or $40 in that same home. So that tells you a lot right there.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
If you're living the way that you're used to living in your apartment in Southeast Asia, then the bill could potentially be high. So, yeah, you just have to, like she said, you just have to look at it and see exactly how much you're using on a regular basis and then see if you can tweak that.
Right. I'm constantly running behind these two. By these two, Amber and the boy, because Amber loves to leave lights on, and she loves the AC on blast, Arctic blast.
Depends on the apartment.
Every apartment.
Just depends.
She be telling y'all stories, y'all.
I ain't got to lie.
Anyway, next up is ATM fees will kill you. We've talked about this before in money management a little bit. Before you leave the country, make sure you get a bank that allows for ATM transaction fees to be either not counted or you get reimbursed for them. Also, let your bank know that you're going overseas. Some banks will cancel your accounts once they realize, or close your accounts, once they realize that you actually are living overseas versus visiting. laws, regulations. I'm not sure what they are, but it's for certain banks. And that bank may be your bank. And the worst thing you could do is to be overseas and they close your account and you can't get your money, or they want to send it to you in a check form to an address that you don't live at anymore in the U.S., right? So we use USAA because I am a vet, and it's worked out perfectly. Another bank that a lot of people use is Charles Schwab. Never use them. We don't have a need for it, but definitely check it out. Do your research on your banking. Pull cash when you need it. Don't pull cash every day. Be careful when you're actually doing a transaction and say you want to run it in local currency versus XYZ, or if you want to do cash or credit or debit. There's fees associated. All those things, you need to do your research.
There's also the possibility of opening an account,
a local
account with a bank that is kind of central to like the countries that you're going to be going to, because there are some banks that are more for expats or for travelers, and so you can look into that. We had considered opening an account at one of those, at a bank we've seen fairly regularly, and it just hasn't been worth it for us to do that because our bank is so good.
Right.
But it may be better for you to do that. And then you have less fees and things to worry about. So definitely consider that. Do research on banks for travelers and consider taking advantage of that. Also, as far as ATM fees go, you don't want to use an ATM too much, but you do want to use them. Sometimes it's better to just get cash and have enough cash on you for a number of days. So that's all you use, and that will help you too with your spending, and that's anywhere. That's even in the States. Like if you keep cash on you and say I'm going to use cash instead of swiping, you keep better track of how much you're actually spending. So we've started to do that a little bit more, kind of out of necessity, because we got to a point where it was hard to get to ATM. So it's like, let's just get the cash we need and be done with it.
Right.
And then that way, okay, I got out X amount of money and we've spent this in a week. Okay, we spent that for a week. Yeah, we spent too much, or that's it. Yeah, we're good. So either way, it helps you keep track a little bit better
of your budget, because everybody knows when you swipe, you don't feel it.
Right.
But when you pull that cash and you counting,
right,
it hurt a little bit more.
Right.
It hurt a little bit more. Now also, with that, get a currency adapter.
Yes.
Add it to your phone, and so when you're paying for something, make sure that you're converting that local cost to USD, so that you can see exactly how much you're paying for it. Because it seems low. Okay, like $1 million here in Vietnam is only $43 in the US. So I have a base point of things, and I'm trying to calculate it in my head. And sometimes it gets a little, you get a little crazy in your head. And so I had to remind myself, I have a currency adapter. What am I doing this in my head for? Let me just take it over here and make sure I'm not overpaying. A lot of people seem to think that once they live in Southeast Asia, everything is cheap.
Right.
It is not at all. You can go to a high-end mall today and pay more for something here than you would have paid in the U.S. Electronics are more pricey here. More expensive, not pricey. There's a lot of things. Clothes that fit you are going to be way more expensive if you can even find them. Shoes, we went looking for some new sneakers in Malaysia. I went to 7 stores because they didn't have any 8.5s.
Right. And they're not cheap now.
And they're not cheap. We're not talking about no $15 sneakers. We're talking about, I was looking at 70 to 100 and something. The same cost.
Right. The same cost as the U.S.
In the U.S. Nothing cheaper at all on luxury items or goods that you could get overseas. Get in America. So again, don't get caught up in the hype. Don't get caught up in the pretty money, and you're not realizing what it is and what it really translates to. We sit down with the boy. We're like, you have your, he's picking out stuff. Like we were in the mall the other day, and there's a video coming for that, and he looked at a hat. Just a regular ass hat.
Well, it wasn't regular. It was Kappa.
It was regular ass.
That's why he wanted it, because it was Kappa, which is not a cheap brand.
And there's no reason why it shouldn't. Why it should be expensive. But anyway, it was $40 for a hat. A hat, purpley.
But anyway, you have that app on your phone ready at all times. If you go out the house, you just have it at the ready. When we go grocery shopping and we're standing at the register, before I pay, I'm putting in the total in my currency app to see exactly what that is in American dollars and I'm paying, because I'm not always translating that in my head all the time. So I just make it easy for myself. I'm like, okay, we're spending $100 today. Okay.
Right.
And then after you do that enough times, you go, we spent way too much at this store.
We're never going there again.
For the same amount of money that we spent over here. So it's just important to do it really every time.
Right. And food. When you're ordering out, when you're using the Grab app or the Gojek app or any of these places, you got to convert that money to USD. I catch myself ordering stuff, and I'm used to big numbers here because again, $1 million is like $40. So, but I'm like, $1 million, $40 worth of food for one meal? Well, where the hell are we at?
Right.
We're not paying that. I was like, oh no, I didn't mean to order all this. Let me just delete this, and we're gonna go to another restaurant because obviously we was not in our right mind when we started clicking on this today. And it helps if you use cash for that instead of a card too. Another pro tip.
And that's why, obviously we know when we're going to go out to like date night or we're going to go to a really nice restaurant, we're expecting that we're going to pay
more.
Yeah, you're going to pay prices that you would pay in America in a nice restaurant.
Very much so.
You're going to do that. That's just, so don't go in there thinking, oh, we're going to get a $50 meal for the two of us. And, that's not going to happen. And you add wine to it. Oh, speaking of that, for those who like their wine, yes. So cost of wine, things like that are going to be, in restaurants, you're going to pay to say ain't going to be nothing cheaper. Now, if you're the type of person that likes to have just, there you can get cheap beers in places all across Southeast Asia. That's,
they love cheap beers.
Yeah, so that, you'll have a good old time if you're a beer drinker. But
50-cent beers. It's true, but it's 50-cent beer.
So, that's on you.
Right, and the wine, Amber keeps telling me, is always cold.
Yeah, that's been very disappointing. If you like red wine, if you're a white wine drinker, then it doesn't matter. But if you drink red wine, everywhere we go in the restaurants, they keep it refrigerated, and it's very disturbing.
But she still orders it. So it's only disturbing this much.
But for those, but go ahead and know that that's the case. It's weird.
Right. And last but not least, credit means absolutely nothing here. Cash is king. So, if you ain't got cash, they don't care. You're not going to rent this apartment.
Right.
Most apartments require a deposit, first, last month, something like that. There may be a brokerage fee or the person who found it fee, unless you found it yourself. So, have your money on hand to do what you need to do.
Deposits as well.
They're not going to run your credit. There is no credit checks or anything like that. So just have your money. And you should be good to go. But again, credit means absolutely nothing over here. Cash is everything. If you get into an apartment, you put the first and the last month down and you don't like it, and you sign the contract, you probably won't get your money back. Tis what it is. You may not get it back either way. Because, honey, they will run some scams over here. We have not fell into that, but other people we know have. But we've been very fortunate in that we've really read our contracts, and we've had good landlords.
Dealt with some respectable people.
Right. Now, our next video that we're going to talk about, so we're talking about money on this one, we're going to actually talk about apartments. We're going to talk about service apartments and what those mean, because we realized when we got up here, we learn as we go, right? And so we're going to share with you a little bit more about what we've learned regarding service apartment, which is one of the apartments that we're in right now. So anyway, that is money today. I think it was good.
We learned so we can share with y'all.
Right. And money is something that you always need to talk about. And you need to think about everything that we've discussed today. Add to it some things that you may have to just for you. Some things we may not have thought about. If you know some things that we haven't thought about, tag us below in the comments. Ask us some questions below in the comments as always. Too, we are here for you.
And like and subscribe.
As always. We are Wondering Soup. Black Lesbian Expats.
We here. This is Amber.
And I'm Kat. We'll see you on the next video, y'all. Peace and love. There she go with them peace symbols.